All right. All right. I'm Gladys Soto.
Okay. Oh, yes, there.
Yep.
Okay. Wait.
All right. All right. Gladys Soto
And my name is Barry Hermanson, and we're here to present today on an initiative that's on the ballot, Proposition I, that has been given the ballot designation.
So is the name of the, is that the name?
Well,
Mission District Rate, Mission District Market Rate Development Cost and Neighborhood Stabilization Fund. That's the name of the Prop I. Okay?
So the whole reason for this getting on the ballot, and we had folks in the community go out and gather signatures and did it in a very, very short time. This was an issue that did come in front of the Board of Supervisors, and it needed 9 out of 11 of the supervisors to actually be able to come forward. We got 7, but we did not get the 9. So we went out in the street and we gathered signatures. The Mission District, as in or many parts of the city, is being dramatically impacted by the development of what we call luxury housing. 9 out of 10 units that are being built today are not affordable to people who live here. And even those 10%, you know, those of us who are of more modest income can't even afford those. So we are asking, this legislation asks that we take a pause for 18 months in the development of this luxury housing. It's all luxury development, so that the neighborhood, the Mission District, can come up with a plan to increase the amount of affordability that is going to be available for people who actually live and work here. And if we are successful in pulling together a plan, we can approach the Board of Supervisors and ask for an additional 12 months to complete that plan. My hope is that we can actually develop something which can be used as a template in other neighborhoods. Chinatown is under tremendous pressure right now. And can you imagine a Chinatown without Chinese people? We're losing an incredible number of people, of Latinos from the Mission District. Approximately 1/3 of the Latino households have left the city. This is, part of the reason, a major reason I live here in San Francisco is the diversity of our community. And this is really being challenged today because market development housing is so profitable for the developers. And of course, they won't build anything. In fact, there was an article just earlier this week or last week about Oakland's mayor, Libby Schaaf, who was saying, oh, we would love to have lots more market rate housing built over here. She just wants to build. As to how that actually makes anything more affordable for people, I don't know. It makes it possible for people with a lot of money to live here, but not for poor people. But anyway, she said that she wants to have this, but the developers won't build in Oakland because they can make more money here in San Francisco. And even though they could build market rate housing in Oakland, the developers really need to come up with a different plan. And so our opponents are out there, and they're saying, oh, this is foolish, and it's not a good plan. We need to continue to be able to do what we're doing. And so the folks that have brought us this crisis are saying that you ought to take even more controls off of us so that we can build more, and somehow this is all going to be better for the community. I don't think so. So we're asking people to join us in voting yes on Prop I in November. And if your organization does wish to be listed as an endorser, please do let us know. We'd be glad to list you. There is a very long list of organizations, excuse me, on the back of this short form. My apologies, this was a form that was developed for a meeting of the San Francisco Labor
The Labor
Council
Council.
last night, and that's the only
Unfortunately,
thing we
we
have.
got endorsed by the
We did.
Labor Council.
The Labor Council did.
Over the weekend, two groups endorsed your proposition, TAC PAC, which is Tenant Association Coalition Political Action Committee, as well as Central City Democrats PAC, Political Action Committee.
San Francisco Democrats PAC. Well, I
Because we didn't do the full, we could do the PAC before we could do the, which is a recommendation to the full organization. So the PAC is endorsed.
Yeah, if I could make a note of that before we leave, that would be great.
So just to give you, you read it here, so basically the mission is under attack. It's like we disappearing.
Now, this organization can also endorse,
Yeah.
because we deal with housing issues, and we
Right.
also are a member of the coalition that's been dealing with the mission. And we were sponsors to me and Susan were sponsors to a,
Casa no es su casa.
which is a film about gentrification of the mission. So
Right.
we were actually sponsors. We actually the biggest sponsors
Oh, wow.
of the film.
Good.
And just to let you know, because there is some opponent saying that it's time to start doing more housing and less politics, what makes this incredible Proposition I is made, it has been done by people. It's from power of people, the community. And we collected 15,000 signatures in 18 days. Unlike other people who take like 180 days, we did it in 18 days, 15,000 signatures, and it was no one politician involved. So it is like a 30 whatever community organization got together and we made it happen. It's incredible. And everybody's like super scared that this may be the beginning of bringing back to the way San Francisco always has been, a place for everybody, that everybody's welcome. And we are, we're trying to make it happen, and the Labor Council endorsed that. And we saw a developer, maybe I don't say the name, leaving the room super upset because they saw that they're gonna make it happen. But the people who were supporting the moratorium, this Proposition I, fighters. Everybody who was there was a fighter. So when this, good-looking, handsome, on-suit guy were trying to sell the idea that we don't need to pass Prop I, these fighters, people that we all respect, they say, no. This is an attack for the community, it's an attack for the city. And next thing you know, boom, from no, it came to 80 to 20. So it was a big success for us. And we also want to invite you, besides getting your endorsement, if you want to get involved, and if you want to volunteer, because it's, as I say, it came from the community and it's going to continue being done by the community. Now all the politicians are going to get involved, right? They want to credit, they want to get credit, they want to get credit, but we're still going to count on people's power. So that's why I'm happy to be with Barry, and thank you.
Good.
Questions?
Any questions?
What are some of the planned ideas after the 18 months?
Well, it's, I'm very clear that we don't have a plan developed right now. It's and this is one of our opponents' criticism as well. They don't, they can't guarantee that we're gonna. I can't guarantee that we're gonna come up with something that is going to be absolutely workable.
Are there ideas in the works?
Well, I just use an example of this initiative that's on the ballot for the development that the Giants want to do down on right across the bridge from the ballpark. And they were having a very modest amount of affordable housing included in their plan. Well, Supervisor Jane Kim thought, well, we really need more affordable out of this. And she was threatening to put a competing ballot measure on this November's ballot. Lots of negotiations. All of a sudden, the Giants now have a plan that has 40% affordable housing in it. Voila. How do they
when
do
you
this?
say affordable, you're actually talking about below market.
The definition that's being used is a family of four making up to $120,000.
Yeah, but we're just talking about is
Up to. It doesn't
Up
mean-
to, yeah.
Which I don't even make, and I have.
Obviously, we want to see lots more development.
like
Yeah.
everybody here is 30%.
I know.
Excuse me, I was taking notes at the South Beach Democratic Club, and it's here 40% affordable, and then they break it down to lower than 45 and to 55% AMI, all the way up to 120.
Right.
So they go from nothing to 120. And they say 60% of the people in San Francisco
So
qualify.
I'm not trying to defend that initiative necessarily.
no, I just
but I'm saying,
yeah.
just through starting a conversation with these developers, that all of a sudden they could do more.
Yeah, right.
So I'm saying through a community process, we ought to be able to identify something that is going to increase the amount of housing that ordinary people can actually afford
making
to live in.
until the recently, I was 37,000 a year. So I mean, as I said, we're not here to defend the Mission Rock, but I guess the point that we're trying to make is that if we take control of the city, instead of these people deciding how they're gonna build or who they're gonna build, we get into the picture and say, you know what, I don't think so it's gonna happen. If you wanna build here, then you have to do this. And then we can become a model for the rest of the city. Because now, I mean, this is a big deal when it's like, the Mission is 1.8 square miles, and in the last 8 years, they have built more market rate housing than 58 of the 108 Bay Area cities, including Emeryville, Daly City, and Martinez. In that little 1.8, they have built more than 57 cities in there. I mean, come on. They have built so much that it's not even funny. The murals are leaving the city, the Mission. All the businesses who have been in existence for 40, 30 years are no longer there. I mean, it's no more, it's, this community feeling, diversity, because even though the Mission is traditionally Latino, we love everybody in terms of whoever is willing to come and say, you know, I want to be part of the Mission, kind of follow the flavor of the Mission. Everybody's welcome, and always has been like that. The Irish have been there forever, but all of a sudden, everybody who's a working class person is leaving the Mission. How can a place that is like a remodel on 19, I used to work over there, Valencia and 22nd, rent for $7,995 for 2 bedrooms, or 11,000, I mean, who makes that? As I said, my last salary was $37,000 a year. So it's crazy what is happening in the Mission, and it's happening everywhere. If we don't want to stop, it's going to continue. And the beautiness of working with Barry is that this is a coalition of people who don't care who you are. It's just people who want to make a difference in the community. People like Barry who has run for Congress. We have people, Roberto Hernandez, who's in charge of Carnival forever and ever. We have Meda. We have San Luis, who has been in a non-profit for 40 years. I mean, I run for the school board. I mean, we have good people, leaders. We have David Salaberry, a smart guy. We have Scott Weaver, who is the one who, the proponent or the writer of the. This is something that we have never seen before. 30 organizations came together and said, you know what, enough is enough. And yeah, time is done. We can talk forever, but
I want to add something.
Yes.
I'm one of the sole surviving members of the North Market Planning Coalition that works in this neighborhood as a street level community outreach worker gathering data in 1983 and 84 when we put in the North Market Special Use District in 85 down here. So I'm very keen on the planning issue and developing plans to allow below market rate affordable housing. And I'm a very big sponsor.
I'm a longtime board member of San Francisco Network Ministries, and we still have a building on L Street, 555 Ellis. And I took part in meetings during the 70s and early 80s as the community recognized that the offices they just wanted to overrun the Tenderloin. And the nonprofits in the area, everyone who was serving people who actually did live here, really stepped forward, and the basic decision that was made was we need to own property. We're going to do this. And nobody had a clue as to how we were going to do it. But by God, it got done. There's a whole lot of low-income housing in this community now because of the efforts of folks all across the country.
One of the things he's referring to is what's called Prop I Mission Moratorium, which was the housing action plan in the 70s and early 80s. Then along came NUMSUD, which we call it, which is the housing zoning issue. We actually have zoning now keeping this residential housing down here. And then I was also part of the program which put together the 2000 action plan, which is still in effect and has been approved by the planning department for 2000 and beyond for designing housing and how the neighborhood should be shaped and formed here in Tenwood.
So we have some good things to draw from.
And also Meda have, I think they have a plan, a strategic plan 2020. So there is something is happening in the mission. There is a Meda, the mission, what is it? Mission and development, something about the mission. Mission, what is the thing? Mission Economic Development Agency. They have a strategic plan 2020. So there are some ideas right there that they think that we can use how to reshape the city. So.
Good.
And as I say, politicians might get involved, but it started with people.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
One of your flyers.
Oh, absolutely.
I didn't manage to get one of those. Thank you.
It sounds
There you
kind
are.
of fun, right? It sounds like a good plan, right, for everybody? Like
Well, hopefully we can duplicate some of what has marvelous work that has been done during the general.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Being able to take the
Some
power
of
back.
the soul factors down here.
We're beginning to feel a lot of the same pressures in this neighborhood now.
Oh, yeah.
The mission's been facing the last couple of years.
Well,
and
what's really
the pace is
disturbing.
really picking up in the Timberline now as well. So this is, if we can't win here in the mission, then
Well, some of the efforts that
Really
I'm
challenging.
hearing is trying to convert some of these SROs
I know.
into higher end apartments for for techies to be living in. That's just wrong.
there are thousands of new
I don't want 'em
neighborhood
here.
units in development
Yeah.
for the Timberline
And they really
right
don't
now.
do.
I came here to get away from
To
people
me,
like that.
the answer long term is ownership by the public of these buildings and by community land trust, so that it is in perpetuity going to be affordable housing.
So I don't know if it's
Enough
a
of this
paper that I can
speculation.
get.
I'm
If
sick
anybody
of
wants
it.
to get involved, dependently how the group decides to endorse our decision. But if you want to get your name, I mean, as I say, we're going to need a lot of volunteers, and we are going to have to deal with developers having like $750,000, whatever money, and we're going to be, everything's going to be based on people's power, community
It is
power.
people power.
People's power. So anybody out of all of you who want to say maybe I want to do phone banking, a wall, like a window sign, tell my friend, any level of involvement we really appreciate. If you have $100 or $20 or $5, anything, any way that you can help us, right?
We have there's an email address on here that you can send us a message. And we'd be happy to stop by again if folks need more information. So thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah,
Anybody
thank
wants
you.
to
Save
use
the
their name
mission.
or-
Yeah.
We also,
Want to
Absolutely.
help in any way?
I
You don't have
do.
to help like crazy,
Give me
but
that.
any way, even talking to you. I promise that I will talk to my friend.
Advocates for affordable housing. We have a number of member organizations, including Tenderloin Neighborhood Development Corporation and Community Housing Partnership. They're active in this neighborhood, among others. We have helped to draft and get on the ballot a measure that would prioritize surplus city properties for affordable housing when the city no longer needs them for whatever it's being used for now, whether it's a building or a maintenance yard. The idea is that the city has a formal process for designating property as surplus and then has to decide what to do with it. And we're concerned that the city might want to sell it off to the market rate because land is very, very valuable, and that's happened in a couple instances. And in their time of affordable housing crisis, which is undeniable and arguably worse as I've ever been in San Francisco, which is 23 years, we need to make sure that city property goes to affordable housing when it's up for use. And so that's really what this measure does. It's important, though, to understand a little bit of the background. In 2002, so 13 years ago, the city did have a surplus properties ordinance. Chris Daly was the main sponsor. It was one of the first things he did when he came into office. He was the District 6 supervisor at the time. And it's still on the books. It really hasn't done much, though, in at least 7 or 8 years, because the bureaucracy, if you will, has figured out ways to get around it and essentially ignores it. So it hasn't really done, it looks great on paper, but it hasn't really done much. So what this measure in fact is, it's a ballot measure, but it updates that existing ordinance and strengthens it, gives it more teeth, if you will, and kind of gives it another breath of fresh air, fresh life. And there's a couple of key things that I want to point out. One is that it adds more transparency to the process. What city agencies and bureaucracies are very good at doing is figuring out how to get around rules to their own convenience. And so we've added things like automatic reporting that has to happen and a schedule for when those reports have to happen, required Board of Supervisors hearings, notices to the local community when there's a property available, and a formal determination about how a site can be used as opposed to just something that happens amongst city agencies. So just transparency alone, for a lot of you folks, community members and advocates, just trying to find out what city government is doing is incredibly difficult. So fundamentally, that's what this tries to do. And then secondly, it tries to make it very clear to the city that selling off property for private development is absolutely not something that's a public priority. And when it happens, it has to have a very high level of affordability requirement. And we want that to be the will of the voters. It's great to have legislation, but in this current time, we think having something from the voters adds the political strength that it needs. So that's really in a nutshell what's in here. If anybody has any specific questions, I can answer. Yeah.
This is applied to a school district properties.
It only applies to school districts in an advisory way. School districts have their own essentially independent jurisdictional authority to do what they want with their property. But again, to answer your question, it's also why we wanted to go to the ballot, because a school district can essentially ignore the city of San Francisco. But there would
But we're city and county, that's why I'm asking.
City and county school districts are essentially protected under state law jurisdiction, as is community college. So the education districts, as they're referred to in here, have a certain amount of independence. But they're in the same 47 square miles. And we think of them as within the same city family or the community family. So if a school district site or a community college site comes up for disposition, we want this to tell them what the right thing is to do. They might have the legal ability to ignore it, but we want to make sure there's a political leverage or pressure on them to do the same thing that the Department of Public Works or another city
So my
agency
next question is, does this have any jurisdiction over the reservoir across the street from City College?
Yes, the reservoir across from City College is owned by the Public Utilities Commission, which is a city agency, but it's what they call an enterprise agency, which means, again, they have a little bit of their own protection under the city charter. So it got more pressure over the Public Utilities Commission than it does over the school district. But at the end of the day, the PUC can still ignore the city's will if they want to. But I will tell you, it's very hard for a city agency, even an enterprise agency, to completely buck City Hall.
And then the last one is the port. These were our hot spots of properties.
Right. So the port is actually exempted from the measure. And it's for a couple of reasons. One is we've already been fairly successful with some port properties of getting them dedicated to affordable housing. So that has already been fairly well established. But secondly, and I guess more pragmatically, they're protected under state law because they come under the jurisdiction of the State Lands Commission. And if you all remember, there's still the brewing controversy over 8 Washington, whether or not the city can impose certain conditions on what's considered state lands property. In this case, the city attorney advised that you can't force State Lands Commission to do anything with port property, so it's kind of a moot point. So we figured, why not just make it clean and exempt them altogether?
Any other questions?
What's the ballot letter?
K.
A?
K.
K.
It's the last one on the ticket.
All right.
So A is the housing bond, K is surplus properties.
All right.
It's like leftovers.
Yeah, like leftovers, yeah. Thank you.
So, sorry.
Oh, yes, sir.
Now, will this be basically a separate ordinance, or because you mentioned about Ms. Daly, something like Ms. Daly passed, or will this just be an enhancement?
It's the latter. Literally the text of the ballot measure, which is 20 pages long, is the existing code with all kinds of strike-throughs and additions. So it's almost like you updated the ordinance.
So this basically intends to put teeth or more teeth
Yes.
to what's already on.
Exactly, and do it through the voters' rather than just through the legislature. Yeah.
So over the weekend, TAC has endorsed this proposition, and so did Central City Democrats.
Okay.
Are you still seeking contributions into the ballot?
Would love it, yeah.
Thing?
Yes.
The way that
Should I circle back with you and do that?
Yeah.
Okay.